think that many people, when they hear the word trope, what they actually think of is cliche. They think of something that is overdone and predictable and just hooky cutter stories. And while that can be true, tropes have a lot more range than that. Plus, finding tropes that resonate with you can help you take your writing from something you like to something you love to read. So, welcome back to Morgan's Writing Tips and Writerly Musings with writing tips from the pros and, of course, my own Writerly Musings. I'm your host, Morgan Hazelwood, and today I'm here with how to incorporate tropes in your writing. So, let's start off with what is a trope? Well, while the dictionary just describes them as literary devices like metaphors and similes, when writers talk about tropes, we're usually describing something else. According to Masterclass, the quote, word trope is used to describe themes, motifs, plot devices, plot points, and storylines that have become familiar genre conventions. In other words, a trope is a pattern, and humans are made to recognize patterns. Now, while researchers like hundreds of years ago started off recognizing these patterns in fairy tales and myths, these days, hundreds of these patterns have been codified. As genres have specific reader expectations, certain tropes crop up regularly in particular genres. Now, some tropes define their genre, and most stories contain a multitude of quote unquote lesser tropes. If you're looking for them, a list, TV tropes is a great place to find these tropes spelled out. Plus, it includes like media lists containing any niche trope you might want more of. So, why do people like tropes? Well, while I've talked about it before, people like it when a book lives up to their expectations. Now, while it may sound formulaic, many people have been raised on the three-act structure. It infuses our books, our movies, our TV shows. All of them have certain pacing. And when we find something we like, we know we can't read that story again for the first time. We can't re experience that movie again for the first time. But many of us yearn to have that same experience again. So finding other stories with the same set patterns, with different characters and different twists, fulfills that desire. So let's talk about how to analyze the tropes you like. Well, first, how do you find out what tropes you like? Think about what books or genres you read over and over again. Think about your favorite movies or TV shows, your favorite podcasts, the story ones. Think about which scenes really stuck with you. Go on, take a minute. I'll wait. Okay, now we're going to explore the elements of the trope and why they work for you. I'm going to give an example of how I break down a trope. For me, I enjoy a good redemption arc that includes forgiveness from the one most wronged. Now, a redemption arc is a broad trope, though. So let's narrow this down. According to TV tropes, I'm probably looking mostly at like the must make amends trope or the atoner. So think Prince Zuko from The Last Airbender or Sarah in Labyrinth. What elements of this arc do I like? Well, I kind of want the character or characters to hurt each other, but only for a good reason, one that I find acceptable. One reason, maybe it's for the character's own good. A real world example of for the character's own good, Catechus doesn't understand why sometimes I shove him into a crate, take him to a strange place that smells of other cats, and get him stabbed with needles. But vaccines protect him. That doesn't mean he doesn't feel hurt and betrayed. From media in Supernatural, when Sam gets locked in a basement to detox from human blood, it's for his own good, but he doesn't necessarily want to do it. Reason number two I like is it's for the greater good, maybe to save the world or maybe to protect people from the danger that is the other character. Like, sometimes I lock Catechus in a room, but it's to give him space and privacy and time to calm down and to save the ankles and or faces of anyone stupid enough to pick up my cat when he's agitated. Another reason that I find reasonable to betray someone is they feel betrayed because they didn't get what they wanted or they asked for. Another catechist example. Sometimes catechist taps on the window, so I'll open it, but sometimes it's like 95 degrees or 35 Celsius or like 30 degrees below 0 Celsius, and I won't open the door or the window for him. Sometimes the characters hurt each other because they didn't think through the consequences. For example, Atticus wants to play and nips at my ankles. He either gets a towel dropped on his head or water sprayed in his face. For Labyrinth, Sarah didn't want to be babysitting, but she never expected the Goblin King to actually kidnap her brother. Another betrayal is they wrongly interpreted the situation or what the other character wanted. Sometimes I'm the bad guy. Sometimes Catechus will come up to me and nip at me while I'm trying to work or write, and I think he's being a bored jerk or wants to play and not now. But then I find out I let his food bowl get empty. Or he's been trying to tell me to take a break. And when I sit down on the couch with his favorite blanket, he settles instantly on my lap because all he needed was snuggles. For the last airbender, at the start, Prince Zuko looks up to his father and doesn't know any other way to behave. And then he gets better. But that's just how the characters hurt each other, or maybe it's a mutual hurting. To be a redemption arc, you have to do more. There are ways to do this, but what I like in my stories a couple elements. First off, the characters have to have a personal connection. Secondly, the characters need to recognize that they hurt the other character. Thirdly, the character must do their best to make amends and not do it again. Fourth, the hurt character understands and accepts the reasons for the other character's actions, and finally, forgiveness is granted. I like those in my redemption arcs. And while I also enjoy stories with mature and self aware characters who immediately own up to their mistakes, for a redemption arc, it needs to be more of a story long process. I like the forgiveness earned closer to like just before the climax so they can face the problem together. And because that way the characters can collaborate on ways to fix the problems they face together. Why? Because I like it best when the redemption is the emotional arc, but not necessarily the plot arc of the story. Otherwise, the forgiveness is the climax. So, while it's good when they can work together so that nobody gets hurt, the story actually does still work for me in a different way if one of the characters consents to take on the hurt to save the day or the relationship. Yes, it still hurts, but I'm doing it for you. Just so long as the redemption isn't earned by the death of the one who hurt the other one. Side note, had a lot of examples about my cat. I know my cat is aggressive, but I recognize he also has the emotional maturity of a toddler, and we do have a language barrier. I have consulted with my vet, and because it is play aggression and not just him being a jerk for unpredictable reasons, we are not at this time resorting to drugs, but we are keeping an eye on his behavior making sure that it doesn't escalate, and the feel away plugins with the mama cat pheromones noticeably cut back on display aggression. Okay, side note over. Let's talk about incorporating the tropes in your own writing. So now that you've thought about what elements work for you, you can start incorporating them in your stories. Now, for me, things that I need to pay attention to with this particular trope is number one, the reason for the hurt or betrayal must be understandable and empathizable, even for the character who suffered. Secondly, the redemptive character has to really work at the amends. It needs to be earned after the halfway point, maybe closer to the climax. Thirdly, the character's connection has to be real and raw. If they don't care about what happens to each other, if the readers don't understand their connection, it falls apart. Um, and I also need to understand what ways the trope has been overdone and how I can make my interpretation of the trope fresh. So, with a bit of forethought and some inspiration, tropes can bring magic to your writing, or at least that's my hope. Well, let me know in the comments below, what tropes do you enjoy in the stories you read? Have you tried to incorporate those tropes in your own writing? And if so, did it work out? As always, thanks for watching and tune in again next week for more writing tips and writerly musings. Bye bye.